Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to my On the Shoulders of Giants YouTube channel. I am Joseph Ward, the founder, creator, and author of On the Shoulders of Giants. I'm going to start with this quote. When the lions have the historians, the hunters will no longer be the hero. I'll say it again. When the lions have the historians, the hunters will no longer be the hero. And I'm starting off with that quote because I was watching a comedy special last night, and it reminded me of how much of our history we don't know. We must know ourselves, and we must tell our own stories. And because we have not told our own stories in abundance, it's 2017. And we still don't know who we are or where we come from. We still have people who believe that our history started with slavery. We still have people who believe that Africa is one country. Like it's not a continent with multiple countries. It's one country and just like in one space, and everybody's the same. We still have people who don't know that Columbus did not discover America. We still have people who really believe that African people are backwards, unrefined, uncivilized, like less than human beings who just wander the earth. And we just so happen to get here because the white man gave us a hand up. Because we don't know who we are, we suffer, and we suffer greatly. And we are more of an enemy to ourselves than we are an ally. We must tell our own stories. Us knowing who we are empowers us. Every group of people on this earth have the right to know who they are and have that connection to their ancestral history. Every group of people on this earth has that right. Now, African Americans, people who are of African descent, who were born in America as a product of the descendants of slavery or who was a product of slavery, our historical or our ancestral lineage has been cut off. So we're going to have a hard time really truly tracing our roots without doing some kind of really accurate genealogy test, so we can at least find out what areas we come from. But that doesn't stop us from learning about the contributions of African people as a whole. How many of us know that the father of modern Russian literature was a black man named Alexander Pushkin, who came from the lineage of Abram Ganibal and Ivan Ganibal. Abram Ganibal was a great Russian admiral, and Ivan Ganibal was a great Russian soldier in the military. But those three changed the course of history for Russia. Alexander Dumas, a black man, wrote the Three Musketeers. Most of us, like when we were growing up, we ain't give a damn about no Three Musketeers because we thought that was white people stuff. Because nobody told us, that even the white teacher in the class had no idea that Alexander Dumas was a black man. Like, we have been totally deprived of the contributions of African people, and that weighs on our self-esteem because we were constantly learning about the accomplishments of white people, not knowing the accomplishments of black people, and not knowing that a lot of these accomplishments that white people claimed they had, they just stole from black people. And because they had the actual military might to do it, they did and say, hey, this is ours. I mean, this is where we are. Like I said, I was watching the comedy special yesterday, and it kind of just brought back this stuff, and I figured I'd make this video because it's our duty to tell our own stories. We must tell our own stories. We must know who we are. We must find our stories and tell them. Every corner of this globe I guarantee you, if you do your research, you're going to find the presence and the contribution of highly intelligent African people. Every corner of this globe, you're going to find evidence of the contributions of highly intelligent African people. Remember, when Europeans were crawling around in the caves, boo-booing on themselves, African people were highly civilized. We talk about technology that people can't even figure out today. The Sphinx is over 10,000 years old. The contributions of African people have uplifted this world, and we haven't gotten our credit for it, because for the last couple thousand years we've been invaded by the Asians, by the Europeans, by the Arabs, by all other groups who claim to be our friends, and now they took our information and they took it around the world, and it's hidden. A lot of it is hidden in plain sight. Like, we go to Washington, D.C. and look at the obelisk and don't even realize that's a symbol of the resurrection of Esau. We don't realize that everything on Capitol Hill and all that is a ripoff of the Egyptian pharaohs and royalty, and how the Egyptian states and things were set up. We have no idea that Benjamin Banneker laid out Washington, D.C. We have no idea of these things. Like, if it wasn't for black people, America would not exist. America became the economic powerhouse it became off the backs of African people. That's what happened, and America is still profiting now off the backs of African people. We have to understand our power and our contributions. We have developed an inferiority complex over the years because of the miseducation that we have learned, that we've been given, that has been stuffed down our throat. The indoctrination that we've gone through we've developed an inferiority complex, and it's not helping us grow. It's not helping us unite. It's not helping us be empowered or empower ourselves. Read as much as you can. My channel, that's why I try to put as much information on this channel. Check out this channel. Check out The Great Griot. Check out Home Team History. Check out Carl Tone Jones. Check out Black Liberation University. Check out Afrique Network. Check out, just go to YouTube, go to Google and type in African history. Learn your history. Now, I like doing research, so I do the research. I find it, and I make it easier and more entertaining for you to learn. But we have to know our own stories. We have to understand, like, the might of, like, one of my favorite kings, Sundiata, King of Mali. I'm gonna go deep into Sundiata in the late video, but he's just one of my favorite that we have no idea about. The Lion King. Like, we have no idea who Sundiata is. Like, we're just not learning about Mansa Musa, who's the most wealthy man in history. We're just not learning about that. Through the works of Ivan Van Sertima, we've learned that the first Americans were actually African people. So when they talk about indigenous Americans are African people. We were here first. We were everywhere first. We settled along the rivers within the various continents and created civilizations. We did those things. Highly, highly, highly intelligent. Pharaoh Akhenaten reintroduced monotheism into the world thousands of years before there was even the Abraham. Think about it. If you look at some of the pyramids and the texts and the inscriptions, like they had electricity in ancient times, in the so-called uncivilized times, in the worlds where things were not modern. They had electricity. Like, the doggone were able to accurately describe the Sirius star systems before this technology that people have, that they had to use and tweak and use and tweak and use and tweak and use before they could accurately, or even try to come close to how accurate the doggone were. We got to study that by ourselves. The white man put a standard on what something was, and we brought it hook, line, and sinker. that got us. But what we have to realize is us as African people, we are very powerful, we are intelligent, we are inferior to no one. Going through the history and just being able to see how resilient we've been able to be, especially African Americans being resilient, how much trauma that we've experienced. Even going through our history, we learn foreign relations. I think we are too damn nice. We're too damn nice. Foreign groups come in, especially Europeans come in, and they act all nice. And you know, one of the biggest things that I've seen, they come in under two guises. Under the guise of religion, or under the guise of we're going to sign the peace treaty. But both of them are going to get you messed up. Both of them are us being set up to be stabbed in the back. Because I already told you before, the missionaries are on nothing but reconnaissance missions, so they can go back to their homeland with everything mapped out, your strengths and your weaknesses, and they're going to come bring armies back to overtake you. And if they want to sit down, because we need to have a conversation. We don't need to have a damn conversation. Learn your history. History has shown us that having conversations, you're going to get your most powerful leaders, your strongest leaders. You're going to have a conversation with somebody, and your leader's going to get got. That's what happens. If you don't believe me, go through my own Souls of Giants profiles and look. There aren't many stories that African people actually sat down with their enemies, had a treaty, had some kind of document signed, and it was actually, and the European actually stuck to their word. Nah, man, usually they'll either capture the African right there at the supposed signing of the treaty or at the supposed negotiation, or they'll sign the treaty or try to sign the forms, and then later on they'll violate it because they want to. And we fall for it every time. This is not saying that every white person participates in white supremacy, but every white person does benefit from white supremacy, whether you want to admit it or not. All white people in America benefit from white supremacy. That's just the fact. So it's not, I know a lot of people say, well, y'all should be learning this information. This stuff is teaching y'all how to hate white people. No, man, not learning this information has taught us how to hate ourselves. So we're going to spend time loving ourselves. We don't have time to hate anybody else. We're learning this so we can better love our damn selves. And we have to stop looking for validation and approval outside of ourselves. Who cares what our enemies think? And I hate, we're always like, well, I'm not gonna do certain things. I'm not gonna give them the reaction that they want and all this. Hey man, look, it's perfectly okay. It's your human right to defend yourself, to stand up for yourself, to protect you and your assets, your family and your people. That's perfectly fine. African Americans are the only ones who've been taught that we should just cower, and just forgive and forget, and just sweep stuff under the rug. Hell no, we ain't doing that no more. Learn from your past. I just did the video last week on rebellion. That's why I did it, because we stood up. We're not soft people. We're not pushovers. Learn your history. Empower yourself. Know who you are. You are not a part of a lineage, or you're not a descendant of a lineage of people who just stood around and took stuff. We must tell our own stories so we can truly know who we are. And when you truly know who you are, can't nobody lie to you about anything about you. And one of the main things that has happened is, since we haven't studied our history, we haven't studied our enemy's history, we haven't studied any type of history, we're totally confused. Neely Fuller Jr. told us that if you don't understand the system of white supremacy and racism, everything else will only seek to confuse you. And we are massively, heavily confused because we don't understand ourselves, our history. We don't understand our historical interactions with our enemies. And so, therefore, we truly don't understand racism and white supremacy. And because we don't understand these things, we keep falling for the same thing over and over and over and over. There's only one way to get out of the cycle. Like my man Sam C said, the only way to get out of a hole is to stop damn digging. So let's stop digging ourselves deeper into this hole, and let's start uniting and linking so we can pull each other out of this hole. Learn yourself. Know who you are. It is our duty to tell our own stories. Peace out.